There are wounds that don't bleed. There are types of control that don't need shouting. Imagine growing up in a place where, seemingly, you had everything: a roof over your head, food, maybe even gifts. But still, day after day, you felt that constant ache. You're never enough. That persistent doubt, am I the problem? Am I too sensitive? It's a feeling that eats away at you from the inside, that makes you question your own sanity. That isn't a flaw in you. It's the invisible footprint of a destructive pattern, so subtle it's barely named. But it does have a name: covert narcissism in parenting. Today we're going to peel back the layers on a painful reality that, for many, feels incredibly lonely. We're not talking about the stereotypical, obviously self-centered, grandiose father or mother who craves attention loudly. No. We're talking about a far more insidious form of control, one that operates in the shadows. It works through apparent sacrifice, through guilt masterfully applied, and through a silent but ever-present demand. Perhaps you ask yourself, but my parent gave me everything. How could this be? Or they didn't yell, they didn't hit, so why do I feel so broken inside? Here is the key. Covert narcissism doesn't need physical violence or explicit verbal abuse to wield its power. It operates through a constant emotional manipulation that weaves a web around you. Phrases you heard or felt like, "After everything I've done for you," or "All I want is for you to be happy, but not like this." These are not expressions of unconditional love. They are, in essence, emotional contracts. They teach you that love, validation, and support are strictly conditional. If you meet their needs, which is often your obedience, your validation of them, your sacrifice of independence, then you will receive crumbs of affection. If you step off script, if you seek your own happiness outside of their expectations, or simply try to be an autonomous individual, that approval is abruptly withdrawn. Why is this so devilishly hard to see? Precisely because, as we said at the start, you likely did receive good things too. There were moments of apparent support, gestures of kindness. And that duality keeps you in a constant state of confusion. It makes you doubt your own perception, leads you to think you're exaggerating, that you're the ungrateful one. You feel perpetually emotionally indebted, apologizing for your own feelings, for your needs, even for your independent existence. Covert narcissism doesn't break dishes, but it does break your identity from the inside out. It molds you to believe your main purpose is to satisfy the emotional needs of that parent. But recognizing this pattern is the first act of liberation. It's not about blaming, but about understanding the dynamic that has affected you so deeply. And in this video, we're going to name those subtle signs and begin to chart the path to healing. Here are the clear and often painful signs that indicate you may have grown up under the impact of a parent with covert narcissistic tendencies, and the crucial first steps to begin healing. Sign 1. The absolute inability to recognize their mistakes or the harm they caused. You will never hear a "I messed up," a "I'm sorry, that must have hurt," or a sincere apology for the negative impact of their actions or words on you. They will always find a justification, a but, or an excuse disguised as good intentions like, "I only wanted to help you," or "I did it for your own good," deflecting responsibility. The result is that your pain, your feelings, and your experience are never validated in that interaction. This reinforces the implicit idea that the fault ultimately lies with you or the circumstances, never with them. Sign 2. They induce guilt and make you feel selfish for having desires, needs, or an independent life. Expressing your own opinions that differ from theirs, setting healthy boundaries on their intrusion, pursuing your own dreams, or simply living your adult life autonomously is often met with subtle or not so subtle displays of disapproval, sighs, comments like, "And what about me? When do you ever think of me?" or the dreaded phrase, "After everything I did for you." They make you feel that any step you take towards your own life is a betrayal or an act of abandonment towards them. This way you learn that your needs and your happiness are secondary, and that you should feel perpetually indebted and guilty for being an individual with a life separate from theirs. Sign 3. They control your life, disguised as saviors or indispensable helpers. They might seem excessively helpful, solving problems you didn't ask for help with, offering unconditional assistance that comes with fine print, or even intruding into the most intimate details of your life under the pretense of helping you. The true goal is not your empowerment or autonomy, but ensuring you continue to depend on them, undermining your confidence in your own ability to make decisions and function by yourself. This help creates an emotional and practical dependency that keeps you tied to them, limiting your freedom to choose your own path. Sign 4. They emotionally compete with you, often subtly. They find it difficult to tolerate you doing better than them in some area of life, receiving more positive attention than them, being happy without their constant intervention, or simply no longer needing them in the same way you used to. They might try to minimize your achievements, get sick when you have an important event, or magnify their own problems to ensure they remain the center of attention and need. Your growth, your happiness, and your independence are perceived at a deep level as a personal loss or a threat to their own sense of importance, leading to a passive and destructive competition. Sign 5. They demand unconditional loyalty. Often presented as filial love or duty, they expect you to prioritize them above your partner, your friends, and even your own children in conflicts or emotional dilemmas. This loyalty is one-sided. You must be available for them, but their support for you is often conditional. They make you pay an emotional price, or it simply disappears when you need their genuine support on your path to independence. The unwritten rule, the central dynamic of this pattern, is cruelly simple and devastating for your development. You exist fundamentally to satisfy their emotional needs, to be a mirror of what they need to see in themselves to validate their existence. The crucial first step towards healing, naming the pattern. The act of identifying and naming this dynamic as covert narcissism is not about labeling them to blame them for all your problems. It's an essential tool for understanding. It's realizing that the pain, the confusion, and that feeling of not being enough that has accompanied you for so long aren't products of your imagination or your weakness, but the consequence of a specific pattern of interaction. Naming the reality is the first step to stop living it as if it were an inevitable fate. It gives you the power to see the pattern and start breaking free from it. Next is a step of personal power. Stop justifying the pain. You were conditioned to believe that if something was done under the umbrella of love or good intention, then the pain it caused isn't real or doesn't matter. It is vital that you stop justifying the harmful impact their actions had on you just because they said they wanted to help. Your pain is real, your experience is valid, and you have every right to recognize and honor it, regardless of their supposed intentions. Afterwards, reclaiming your identity, start validating yourself. After years of seeking approval, recognition, and validation from someone who rationed it, conditioned it, or constantly withdrew it, true liberation begins when you stop waiting for that validation to come from outside and start validating yourself internally. Your worth doesn't depend on whether you meet their ever-changing expectations or their mood. This is the moment you start reclaiming your own power. You decide what is right for you, what you feel is legitimate, and who you are independently of their approval. And finally, the bravest step, establishing healthy boundaries. This is, without a doubt, the most challenging step, and the one that initially can generate the most guilt, fear, and resistance on their part. But it is absolutely essential and non-negotiable to protect your emotional space, your vital energy, and consolidate that identity you are reclaiming. Setting limits on their intrusion, on their manipulative comments, on their excessive demands. There will be pushback, attempts to make you feel guilty, but this is the path to your freedom. Remember the fundamental truth. You don't necessarily need to break the family tie if you don't wish to, but it is indispensable and vital to break the pattern of toxic interaction that has held you prisoner to their needs. If hearing these signs and these steps sparked a deep resonance within you, if a light switched on or a weight began to lift, I want you to engrave this truth deeply. You were a good child. That pain, that confusion, that feeling of not being enough that accompanied you for so long was not a flaw in you. It was the consequence of a dynamic you did not choose. Recognizing this pattern, naming the pain it caused is not a betrayal of your family of origin. It is, finally, the purest and most necessary act of loyalty to yourself. It is the beginning of your journey to build your own life, with your own rules, validated by the most important person, you. And even though you're just taking the first steps, something has already shifted within you. You're beginning to break free, and that changes everything. Thank you for being here at Understand. Grow. Be. Thank you for giving yourself this space, for truly listening to yourself, and for continuing to commit to your transformation from within. If this content resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share it with someone who might need it, because here we keep exploring together the things that truly transform us. See you in the next video. Until then, take good care of yourself.